Picture this, it's a cold, dark November morning in 2003. A Securicor van is making its rounds in Sevenoaks, Kent, carrying a hefty £1.2 million in cash. Suddenly, it's flagged down by what appears to be a police car, complete with flashing blue lights. Two officers step out, dressed in full uniform. They tell the driver there's been a problem with the van, and he needs to get out. He complies, thinking it's a routine check. But the moment he steps onto the pavement, everything changes. This was no routine stop. This was the beginning of one of the most audacious cash-in-transit heists in British history. The police officers were imposters, and their goal was the fortune locked inside that van. They bundled the real driver into their fake police car, slapped some handcuffs on him, and drove him around for a terrifying half-hour before dumping him, unharmed but shaken, on the side of a road. It sounds like a scene straight out of a Hollywood movie, right? A gang of criminals, brazen enough to impersonate police officers, pulling off a multi-million-pound robbery in broad daylight. But this was very real. And as detectives from the Kent Police's Serious and Organized Crime Unit began to dig into the case, they quickly realized this wasn't just a random attack. The precision, the timing, the knowledge of the van's route, and its contents, it all pointed to one chilling conclusion: this had to be an inside job. The investigation, codenamed Operation Halyard, kicked into high gear. The first big question was, who could have fed the robbers such detailed information? Suspicion naturally fell on anyone with access to Securicor's schedules. The driver of the van was questioned extensively, but he was soon cleared of any involvement. He was a victim, not a conspirator. So, the net widened. Investigators began to scrutinize every employee, past and present, who might have had knowledge of the cash deliveries. The fake police car, a silver Vauxhall Vectra, was a key piece of evidence. It was found abandoned not far from the robbery scene. Forensics teams swarmed over it, searching for any tiny clue: a fingerprint, a strand of hair, a fiber from a piece of clothing. They knew that in a crime this well planned, the criminals would have been careful, but even the most careful criminals make mistakes. And a mistake was made. Inside the car, they found a small but crucial piece of evidence: a single cigarette butt. In the world of forensics, this was potential gold. DNA technology was advancing rapidly, and a sample from the cigarette could provide a direct link to one of the suspects. The butt was sent off for analysis, and the waiting game began. While the lab worked its magic, detectives were following another trail. They started looking at individuals with a known history of similar crimes. This type of high-stakes robbery requires a specific skill set and a certain level of nerve. They cross-referenced their list of potential inside sources with a list of known armed robbers. It was like putting together a giant, complex puzzle, and every piece of information was vital. The breakthrough they were hoping for came from the DNA analysis. The sample from the cigarette butt matched a man named Roger Clark. Clark was no stranger to the police. He was a known career criminal with a long rap sheet. Suddenly, the police had a name, a face, and a direct link to the crime scene. Clark was their man. But he didn't act alone. A gang of this size needs multiple players. Who were his accomplices? With Clark identified, the police could start to unravel his network. They placed him under surveillance, monitoring his movements, his phone calls, his meetings. They were building a web of evidence, patiently waiting for him to lead them to the rest of the gang. Through their surveillance, another name emerged: David Grierson. Grierson also had a criminal record, and phone records showed he was in constant contact with Clark around the time of the robbery. The pieces were starting to fall into place. But what about the inside man? Who was the mole inside Securicor? This is where the story takes another fascinating turn. The investigation led them to a man named Alan Bollock. Bollock was a former Securicor employee. He had been fired from the company shortly before the heist. He knew the routes, the procedures, and the security protocols inside and out. He had the knowledge, and now, it seemed, he had a motive: revenge, perhaps. Or maybe just greed. The police believed Bollock was the crucial link, the one who provided the blueprint for the entire operation. With their three main suspects identified: Roger Clark, the muscle; David Grierson, the accomplice; and Alan Bollock, the inside man, the police prepared to make their move. Coordinated raids were carried out, and all three were arrested. When they searched the suspects' homes, they found more incriminating evidence. They discovered parts of police uniforms, high-visibility jackets, and other items that linked them directly to the robbery. They also started to trace the money. $1.2 million is a lot of cash to hide. While most of it was never recovered, investigators were able to show that the suspects had suddenly come into large sums of money after the heist, spending lavishly on cars and luxury goods. Their lifestyles didn't match their declared incomes, a classic red flag for law enforcement. The trial was a media sensation. The prosecution laid out its case meticulously. They presented the DNA evidence from the cigarette butt, the phone records connecting the gang, the testimony about the fake police car, and the financial evidence showing the suspect's sudden wealth. The inside knowledge provided by Alan Bollock was presented as the key that unlocked the entire plan. The defense attorneys fought back, of course. They tried to discredit the DNA evidence and create doubt in the minds of the jury. But the weight of the evidence was overwhelming. The prosecution painted a clear and compelling picture of a well-organized criminal conspiracy. In the end, the jury was convinced. In 2005, Roger Clark and David Grierson were found guilty of conspiracy to rob and were sentenced to 18 years in prison. They were also found guilty of firearms offenses, adding to their sentences. The inside man, Alan Bollock, was also found guilty of conspiracy to rob and received a 10-year sentence. The judge described the crime as professionally planned and ruthlessly executed, and praised the police for their brilliant investigation. The Sevenoaks Securicor Van Robbery remains a landmark case in British criminal history. It showcases the audacity of organized crime but also the power of modern forensic science and determined police work. The tiny cigarette butt left in the getaway car was the undoing of a gang that thought they had planned the perfect crime. It's a powerful reminder that no matter how clever criminals think they are, they almost always leave something behind. This case served as a major wake-up call for the cash-in-transit industry. Security protocols were reviewed and tightened across the board. Companies invested in better vehicle tracking, more sophisticated alarm systems, and more rigorous background checks for their employees. The idea was to make it much harder for an inside man like Alan Bollock to compromise the entire system ever again. So, what can we take away from this incredible story? It's a tale of greed, betrayal, and meticulous planning on both sides of the law. It shows how a moment of carelessness, like flicking away a cigarette, can unravel an entire criminal enterprise. It's a testament to the fact that justice, even when it seems like the criminals have gotten away with it, can and will prevail. The work of the Kent police in Operation Halyard ensured that this gang, who thought they were untouchable, would pay for their crimes. And it all started with a fake police car on a quiet morning in Kent. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into incredible true crime cases. Let me know in the comments what you think was the sentencing fair. What was the most shocking part of the plan to you? See you in the next video.